Maybe don't know.
This time, it's time to build. This 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 time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I am your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to episode 45 of the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. Every time you listen, that's who it's brought to you by. You know why? Because we don't need sponsors. We don't want them. You guys have stepped up. You've become patrons. You guys are helping us keep this thing sponsor-free, and I appreciate that a ton, frankly. And all of you hardcore listeners may realize that I've dropped back to sort of a normal pace instead of my normal frantic, manic, put out episodes at breakneck speed. So we're back to about 3 a month. And that's because we've been working on the new We Scream Like Eagles podcast, which is something that the patrons get. If you're interested in checking that out, for as little as $1 a month, you can become a patron at patreon.com/powercompanypodcast. But I'm not going to beat you over the head with that right now. I've also been working on an episode that I'm pretty excited about that you'll be getting next after this one, which is a multi-part episode with my good friend Angie Payne. And we're talking about pressure. We both went to the World Cup in Vail, and I ambushed people with my microphone and talked to them about pressure. People like Alex Puccio and Jan Hoyer and Janja Garnbrett and Shauna Coxey and Brooke Rabitou and Megan Martin and so on and so on and so on. And meanwhile, Angie took photos of the emotion that these pressurized situations tend to bring out of these competitors, and she got some really, really great stuff. And then Angie and I sat down and discussed pressure, discussed her photos, discussed the comments of the competitors that we got. You'll hear those clips. You'll see the photos on the website. And I think that's going to be something different and really cool for you guys to look at. So you'll get that next. So I'm going to go ahead and move on here. Couple of quick pieces of business. Number one, we're still looking for that 100 reviews in 2017. We've got 88. That means 12 of you who have iPhones. Sorry, Googlers with your Androids. I don't know what Google's deal is. They don't support reviewing. Sorry about that. But those of you with iPhones can go and review us on Apple Podcasts. You just go to your podcast app. You click on My Podcasts. You then search for the Power Company Podcast. Click on our logo, and it will then be self-explanatory how to leave a review, I believe. And we would love to hear what you guys have to say, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whatever. I do want to highlight one that came in May. This one's so good, I just really wanted to try and read it. It's from AKW555. The title is So Good, So Strong. He says, "The content offered by Chris and Company is as good as it gets in the climbing training realm. Such high-quality juice has inherent cost to produce, but OW giveth thine community thy knowledge for free. Download, listen, become enlightened, get strong. Send, sot, write a review. Sot. It's time to build." How'd I do, AKW555? Thank you for writing that review. It's really fun to read those things. I do want to jump into this thing. I don't want to keep you guys too long. We've got a few events coming up, which I will tell you more about on the way out of this thing. So if you're interested in coming out to workshops or coming to see us, you can hear about it at the end. I'm going to jump right into this thing with Jason Kehl. I sat down with Jason in Waco this past winter, at his house actually, and we talked about sort of a nebulous idea to discuss, which is creativity in climbing and how it affects his climbing and his shaping and how he rolls all of these things, his brand, his Crypto Child brand, into his entire life. And I think it's really, really interesting what he's done and what he's accomplished. And I'll just let Jason tell you the rest.
I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to, know when to turn it on, know when to relax, and know when to get aggressive. For me, I have to try hard to succeed,
This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build.
Yeah, I look forward to getting back here and getting to West. We didn't get to West at all this trip.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I kind of felt like, once I went to East and went to the Spur and kind of had a few days where we were climbing things that I could do really quickly, it was like, I don't know how often I'm going to get back here.
Yeah, you got to pick your battles.
Rather just for my first trip here, pick stuff on North that I could have fun doing and spend time on if I want to or not.
There's too much, yeah.
So
you get trapped in a project and you have to keep going back there and
no doubt.
Find your tour to get there, and it's epic.
Were you ever the kind of guy that projected things that were already established?
Yeah, for sure. But there's just so much stuff to do in Waco that's not established.
Yeah.
And in the big picture, like, that's how I would want to be remembered, is by, look, here are all the climbs that Jason put up. Like, I could easily be distracted by all that other stuff, but I have a limited amount of time here, limited amount of skin, and I just want to find and put up the coolest stuff I can do.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can repeat stuff, so.
Yeah. How much time have you spent repeating things in Waco? Or has it pretty much always
a decent
been?
amount. No, a decent amount. Like, I started climbing here in like 96 or something, so.
Oh, yeah, you've been here a while then.
I don't think I started really searching out first ascents until probably like, I don't know, 8 years ago or so.
Yeah, that's cool, because I was, this is my first time here, so I'm just repeating things. But just the other day, we were over in an area working on something with Annalisa, and I started looking at this arete and was like, oh, there are really cool holds here. I wonder if anyone's ever done this.
Yeah.
It's right next to a very well-traveled area.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't imagine no one's ever looked at this, but you never know.
Well, yeah, a lot of times people just go to the classics.
Right, exactly.
And there are like a lot of those problems, when you go to the area and you're just bored because you've done all the stuff at the area, and then you just start looking around and you're like, what's this? And I definitely put up some random stuff like around Bush League and stuff like that, just because I was there and I didn't want to do the same thing over and over again. And I saw new holds and they were cool. And yeah.
Do you ever, when you go out, do you do like eliminate things as well, or really contrive things just to be climbing something different?
Not so much.
No,
I mean,
for the line.
Not so much. No.
Are you more drawn to what the climb looks like when you stand back from it and look at it, as opposed to
movement?
Just the movement?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it has to be a whole, like the climb it can't be like really cool movement and then it just is absolutely
looks like shit.
Like I wouldn't be as psyched, but yeah.
Well, I kind of want to talk to you about, the whole package of creativity, like how you've blended all these parts of your creative life into climbing. And that's something that, I feel really close to, because I've tried to blend other parts of my life that could be, totally separate from climbing. Tried to blend it with climbing in a creative way. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's really interesting. And I know that you're also, really interested in progression as well, both physically climbing harder boulders and just pushing into new realms, whether that's headspace or creativity or whatever. And I was listening to the Chalk Talk podcast you did with John, and you mentioned that you thought it was important to get stronger because it opens up more doors and you see things differently. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it, because a lot of creative people completely take out the training, getting stronger aspect of climbing and what that could mean to their creativity. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But let's back up. And when you were a kid, were you involved in sports at all?
A little. Growing up suburban America, you kind of get into all the baseball, soccer, all that kind of stuff. But then as I got older, I found I really wasn't into the team sports at all. It just, it was a put off. You could never really shine as yourself,
Sure.
And I think that's when I got involved in like more personal sports, like karate I was really into, and then climbing. And that was why I liked climbing, because at the time there were no coaches. Like,
right.
There was no one telling you what to do. You kind of had to piece it together yourself.
Yep. Yeah, and I was just looking at a study the other night. I actually heard about it on a podcast and then looked at the study a little bit, that being involved in organized sports as a kid actually reduces creativity off the field. And there could be several ways to draw correlations to that, but they also studied kids who were involved in non-organized sports, more like martial arts or rock climbing, skateboarding, things like that. And those kids were far more creative than the kids involved in organized sports.
For sure.
So I was just curious about your sports background.
Yeah, I think you're waiting a lot of times on the team sports. You're waiting for someone to tell you what to do.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If you're doing your own thing, you have to be creative, especially like something like skateboarding or something like that, where, you're the one in control and you're like, okay, what can I do now to keep pushing myself and keep trying something new and keeping psyched.
Yep. I worry about that with training for climbing. It's how I'm making my living now. And I see many people thinking of training just as hangboard, campus, weightlift, very physical things, and I think there's a more creative aspect to it that needs to be fostered.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested in picking your brain with that. How much do you think creativity plays into your outdoor climbing?
A lot. That's what I like about it, first finding the line, and then, even believing that it's possible. And then, you start at the base and you're just trying to figure out any possible way to get up it. And, just having the belief that you're going to find the way, because sometimes you'll go to the same thing over and over and you cannot figure it out. But it's when you stop trying, then it's over. But you come up with one tiny thing, you're like, what else? Rack your brain. What else could I possibly do different? You're looking at it and you're like, I've tried absolutely everything. This can't be done. And then you change your 1 foot, to the right 2 inches, and everything opens up.
Yeah.
So I think just having that patience, I think that's a huge deal of, being patient and, continuing to be okay, there has to be some minute little thing that I can change, and that's all that could make all the difference.
Yeah, and I think that's part of creativity too. I mean, creating art is a similar thing.
Yeah.
It's not like you just, look at a block of foam when you're shaping and instantly the perfect hold comes out. You really have to be patient with it and let things happen. And
a lot of times it's that small thing that makes it all happen. And if you don't have the time to see that, or it's people think, okay, I want to do a really cool hold, but it has to be so different than everything else.
Right.
It can be different, but because of one tiny little thing.
Yep.
So, and I think that's why, certain holds are more accepted, because they're simple, not because they're outrageous.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's, even when we were talking about your pipes just a few minutes ago when we were looking at your home wall here, those look so different than every other hold that's out there. but still you're holding them much the same as you would, a climbing hold outside.
For sure.
But I think they help to expand your mind a little bit because you start using them in different ways than you would a normal hold. If it's a sloper, you're just like, oh, I'm going to grab it like a sloper. But these things let you go, oh, I'm not sure how to grab that. Let me play with it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes that whole, organic concept of a hold and simplifies it in this, non-organic shape that's very symmetrical. I mean, you could look at each hold and see the same thing in other holds, but this is just, refined into this, one single concept.
Do you take that, almost non-organic approach to other seemingly organic things? I mean, I think some of it we can see, like your climbing videos are very much, different than the norm, even though they're still showcasing rock climbing.
Yeah.
Have you always taken that approach to things?
Yeah, I think because I'm bored with everything else. And, it's your choice what you show people. Like, you don't have to go do a first ascent and then post the uncut footage of your first ascent. Like,
right.
To me, that's super boring. So I have a choice. What can I do differently? I have an audience. What can I show them? And so, the whole thing just ends up working out.
Yeah. How much do you, when you're going out to, work on something, do you always take the video camera?
Not necessarily. Usually if it's something that I know, okay, like I'd love to, put this in a video or something, I'll take the camera. But like, there's that problem. The first problem is in the video, this echo chamber. Like I put up 4 lines on that boulder and didn't take the camera out once and didn't shoot any of them. And then we went out and shot the standard line for the video. And I don't know. It's different. Like I want to climb with friends sometimes, and I don't want to bring that part of it with me, Yep. I don't want to be like, yo, hold on, let me set up the shot, Like,
right.
I just want to go out and climb. So sometimes I just go out and climb, or other times I go out, like, tomorrow I'm going to go out with Andy Wickstrom and we're going to try and get some like fill-in shots. So we're going out specifically to get some shots,
Yep.
And probably won't focus on climbing that much.
Yeah. And I think what I'm really interested in there is that it's, no matter what you're doing, if you're going out climbing with friends, looking at new things, you're bringing your creativity to it. But then you also come back to these things and approach them in a really creative way. However, some people could definitely, and I've heard people say this, and I'm not in agreement necessarily, but filming all the things you do, sort of takes away from the experience or something like that. And like it's this non-esoteric, non-organic way to approach climbing, and it makes it this, I don't know, stale thing instead of this bright creative thing. But I don't think that I agree with that, and I can't imagine that you do either, because you release these great videos.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're into and what your end goal is. Like, a lot of people use climbing as a release. They just want to go out and climb and release the stress, and that's it. And you're like, oh, why you got to bring your camera out? Those type of guys.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, a lot of things that I'm shooting and climbing, I think they're so amazing when I find them that I want to, showcase them, share them with the world. And, a lot of times in the past, like when it wasn't as acceptable, like, to have a video camera, like there's a sense I've done where I'm like, wow, I wish I really would have had a camera then, like, soloing the fly, for instance.
Right.
I got photos taken. This guy came out and he took photos.
Yep.
And I'm like, I remember the moment and I remember how intense it was. And I'm like, wow, I wish I would have like filmed that. Like, it'd have been so different than just these, stale still photos.
Right.
Something that happened.
Yeah. It's interesting how we progressively, as we get older and as we climb more and more, and things are changing around us, that we think back and wish we would have done something differently. even though the process in the moment is such an important part of it, you know,
The accomplishment.
yeah, and we can still look back and be like, oh, I wish I would have done this different. You know, I think that all the time. I wish I would have had a video camera for things I did eons ago. You know, where does your inspiration for these videos come from? Do you have these ideas in mind even before you find problems, or do they grow with the problem?
Yeah, just, you know, going out and thinking about them. Sometimes, you know, I have a concept in mind, but like right now I'm trying to make this video and I've got like 3 or 4 problems filmed, and that's all I have filmed. It's just, you know, I went out there, I put the camera there, and then after I send, I get some other angles, but I have no filler material, I have no story, I have no nothing.
Right.
And so a lot of times I'll go out, you know, and just try and think about it while I'm out there, you know, and I'll come up with something that kind of just like brainstorming, you know, while you're out there. And a lot of times, I don't know, I'll like come up with it as I'm doing it or as I'm going through the process of making the video. So I would find it pretty stressful to like, you know, go shoot a video like and shoot it in like 1 week or something, because a lot of times I'll be like, oh, okay, I want to go get this shot, and that'll make, you know, all this work together and make sense. And so a lot of the videos in the past, like I've had the opportunity to be like, okay, let's go back and get this shot. And
once you've figured out the story that you want to tell,
fill out the story and then make the whole thing make it like it makes more sense. But yeah, it's hard, especially my track record, you know. I'm like, okay, I gotta come up with a creative video. It's gotta be cool, it's gotta be different than the last one. So there's a little pressure there, but I think that's what makes it fun, you know.
And you know what, I think you'd put that pressure on yourself. Even if you know, I think that's just what creative people do. They want to top their last project. You know?
Well, you need that pressure to be to be more creative.
Exactly. You know, that what you're just talking about, finding the story later, sort of explains something to me that I didn't even realize needed explaining. I was sitting with Martina, your wife, when you were doing your presentation at the Rock Ranch for the rodeo. And the video for, it might be Count to 6 and Die. Is that right? Is that the one that you threw your little wobbler on?
Oh no,
that
was the end.
Right. Well, when you fell off and you threw the tantrum, Martina turned to me and was like, "This is real. This really happened." You know, and there's like the moment where you can just see
her eyes
right above her nose, and you see her eyes, and she's staring at the camera like, "Oh God, what's happening?" You know, and you're throwing shoes, and you know, did you watch that footage later and then come back and film the shoes at the headquarters and all that?
I mean, I watched the footage and it was just so ridiculous that I was freaking out, and her reaction was so funny, and just how the one shoe hit the wall and dropped down to the ground and the other shoe just went out of frame. It's just, you know, a way to poke fun at myself, I guess. And you know, we all have a wobbler here or there, but I just wanted to, you know, poke fun at the fact, and you know, I'm a real person, like I freak out like sometimes, and we just went back and got those shots of the office.
That's really funny. I think it's good to not take yourself super seriously, you know, and I think we can all come across as really serious about what we are doing. So I think those lighthearted moments like that are really important to have. You know, do you ever worry that people think you're all about like just darkness and you know?
I mean, I don't worry, but there are people that think that. I mean, there's people that think all kind of things, you know. You go in the gym and you fall off a V5 and they're like, yo, that dude, he just fell on a V5 and he's Jason Kehl. Like, what's, you know, you're like, okay, everyone falls on a V5 sometime in their life. Like, no, so I don't really, you know, when I meet someone, I assume they know nothing. I don't walk into a climbing area and be like, yo, grab me your pizza, yo. Like, I'm Jason Kehl. You know, I assume you know nothing. Every time I meet someone, I assume they know nothing. I
Yep.
don't assume anyone knows who I am. I don't care if anyone knows who I am.
Yep.
So I take everything, at a base level of, hey, nice to meet you. I'm Jason. Like, who
Sure.
are you? Who am I? Like,
Sure, but
yeah.
you have an audience out
Oh,
there.
sure, sure.
You know people pay attention.
And it's weird,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's weird. Yeah, but so I try to think about it, and I try to treat everyone equally. And
Yeah. And just do your own thing.
and yeah, if someone is psyched on me for whatever reason, maybe they saw a cool video, then that's awesome. And if they're open enough to like talk about it with me, that's even cooler, because
Yep.
sometimes people will be like, oh, yo, there's Jason Kehl, and then they won't even like say hello to me.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what was that all about?
Yep.
Like, sure, I don't know who you are, but if you walked up to me and introduced yourself, I would be psyched to meet you too,
Yeah, totally. And you have no idea how many times I've been challenged to rap battles at like random
nice.
moments at
Nice.
climbing festivals or out at the
Nice.
boulders, And I'm like, really? That's not what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
But it's always funny.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing is, they are psyched.
Yeah.
So why not play along with it?
Yeah,
And everyone
exactly.
has fun, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. What how do you take let's talk about how your hold shaping goes along with your outdoor climbing, because I think it must,
It does and it doesn't, because, for a while there, I only climbed outdoors, and I was
Right.
still shaping a lot.
Right. And I think that's really interesting that now
yeah.
you're into building and designing
Yeah.
gyms for for clients, big clients, and your hold shaping,
Yeah.
but you're definitely far more known as an outdoor climber.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think just my perspective is like I'm always looking for something that is interesting to me. So when I'm hiking around, looking for new problems, I'm not only looking for new problems because, that's all I want to do. It's, I look for amazing features, like even if it's like next to the ground, I'm like, wow, like this is amazing rock feature that Waco, has created. So yeah, I'm always on the lookout for things like that, even, around town or whatever at the grocery store. I'm always looking for something like that. And I don't know, when I am climbing indoors and I am setting and I am shaping, I find that everything just is working easier.
Yeah.
Like this well-oiled machine. And when I'm not, it's a little tougher.
Do you find that your outdoor climbing is changing while you're shaping?
No, but I just feel more connected if I'm climbing indoors and shaping or setting, because when I'm setting, you have this understanding of what you're looking for, because you're always reaching for holds that you like. So in your mind, you're like, okay, I like this, I like that, I like that. And then when you're shaping, it's easier to recreate that or just understand what you like. And yeah, the outdoor stuff, I guess, the shapes organically, I'm always looking for that. So I guess that is connected, but a lot of my shapes, I don't know, they are organic, but at the same time, they're exaggerated to the point where, you probably
Sure.
wouldn't see it, but that's what makes them fun.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it should be. I definitely came up in a time similar to you
Yeah.
where all the holds were
Yeah.
meant to resemble real
Rocks,
rock.
and they were all brown and you couldn't see them on the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're indoors for.
No.
It's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And it's a business that you're trying to sell to the general public if you're a gym owner. So
Yeah, and you can. So like, why not make it more fun and
Yeah.
more creative? And you can do anything you want indoors, really.
yeah. Do you try to keep you have some designs that are really, really fun and out there, way outside the box. Mm-hmm. Do you try to make those usable, like for serious climbers as well? Or are those more just, let's keep it really
As far
fun?
as climbing holds?
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. Like a lot of shapes I had done in the past for So Ill, it was kind of, stuff just to catch your eye. It was like, oh, we want to do these teeth or we want to do this. And yeah, usable, but realistically, it's more for the fun aspect.
Yep.
Or, I wouldn't, want to set with them in like the nationals or something
Sure.
like that. But now I think back then it was like, okay, let's get everyone's attention because
Yep.
we're doing all these crazy things. Like
It's almost a marketing decision.
Yeah. And now we're turning it down a bit and making it still eye-catching, but at the same time, like completely usable.
Yep.
Yeah, I think people are slowly starting to recognize that,
Yeah. I think
not all crazy.
Yeah, I've definitely heard in the past I listen a ton. I'm an observer for sure. So
Yeah.
so I listen to conversations that are going on all around me, and I've heard people talk about, almost taking themselves too seriously and climbing too seriously. Like these holds they're just pointless. It's just silly, and and I'm kind of like, yeah, but that kid over there who it's his first time in the climbing gym wants to climb on these teeth.
Yeah.
Like he thinks it's cool. So there's definitely a reason to have that stuff, and I think it's interesting that you say it was more like a marketing decision. Let's just catch everybody's eye. I think that's cool. Did you do that with videos initially? Was that part of it? Like let's make some crazy videos that are different just to catch people's eye, or did you just want to do something different?
Just wanted to do something different, and I know that it's not for the masses necessarily, and
Right.
some of my concepts aren't really taken. It's more the people who are the random weird climbers are like, oh, I really like that video because it was different, and I feel like nowadays there's less and less of that. Like when I started climbing, it was like climbers were the people that were on the fringe all the time.
Right.
Now you get more and more random people who are climbing, and they're just, your average person who happens to climb. They're not a diehard dirtbag or anything like that.
Right.
So I feel like I definitely have this niche of who is more interested in it. And that's fine. I like that because those are the people that I feel like I can relate to.
Sure.
Also.
Yeah, I bet. Do you get any kind of pushback, or do you ever hear any pushback from like the more take themselves serious crowd?
Sometimes. Sometimes people are like, oh, he's just looking for attention or something like that. But
right.
I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I have your attention. Like, I just want you to think about something differently and not watch the exact same climbing video over and over. For a while there, I didn't even watch climbing videos because I was just so over it. They're so bad.
Yeah, I've been the same way with hip hop for a lot of years. I pick and choose what I listen to really carefully, but most of it's so bad and so boring that I just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm trying to create something, I can't watch other videos. I feel like I'll play into their little box if I do. Yeah, I was curious if you got pushback, because I remember the first time we had any contact was a long time ago, and you had come to Boone, and it was kind of at the time when the internet was first getting started with climbers.
Yeah.
The first message boards were happening, and I may be remembering this incorrectly, but I think you sent some long-standing project in Boone or something, and you, at the time, you were like black nail polish, and you might have been wearing contacts, white contacts or something at the time. I don't remember. But the Boone locals who were, it was definitely kind of a take yourself serious crowd, and they didn't want anyone to know about their projects. And there was a bunch of pushback when you just came in, sent a project, and left town, and a bunch of people were talking a bunch of shit on the internet. And I, at the time, was really vocal on the internet. I don't know why. I would sit in my basement and just rant on the fucking internet. But I remember thinking, you guys are all just upset that this guy looks differently and climbs harder than you do. Like, there's a million people going to be like that out there.
Yeah.
So I opened my mouth, and you sent me a message after I went on this, arguing with all these guys, and you were like, hey, thanks for standing up for me. I didn't really know what to say. And it was kind of at the time when you were just bursting onto the scene, So I was curious if any of that persisted or not.
No, not really. And, stuff like that, I'm not one who obsesses over
Yeah.
message boards at
Sure.
all. Like,
Yep.
these mountain project stuff. Like,
Yeah, I've learned my lesson too. I don't get on
yeah,
there at
it's
all
just
anymore.
like, oh, did you hear people are freaking out on Mountain Project about this? And I'm like, no, because I don't read it because
Exactly.
it's a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just let that stuff kind of roll off my back and focus on the more positive stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it always I'm like, people really get all worked up about that? Like,
Yeah.
really? And then that's when you feed back into it and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And
Yep. Big vicious cycle.
yeah, I'm like, you can say what you want to say. Like, I don't need to argue with you about it. Like,
Yeah. And I'm glad you don't hear much of that anymore. You know, I would expect not, because I think you've put enough amazing content out there that I don't think there's even an argument anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I think that people were nervous about it initially when climbing was this protected thing
Yeah.
that they thought was this sacred thing that no one else could do but them. You know, but I'm glad.
I still get that. What's on that guy's head? Like, I still get those comments from time to time. Yeah, but from random people. But it's funny.
Yeah, hilarious. Something I'm really interested in is, you know, you've used this hashtag still yielding or something to that effect. And you're out in Waco, this place that a lot of people could call tapped out. You know, they would think there's not much left, but you're still putting up these super high quality lines all over the place. What allows you to see these things that other people don't? Because some of them aren't, you know, it's not like only the V15s are left, you know?
Or the sketchiest landings or,
Right,
or
right.
whatever. For one, it's definitely accessibility. Like, being a guide, you know, is awesome. I can explore, and, you know, having climbed here for so long, you know, still I haven't done all the established lines, obviously. Like, there's just endless. But I think because Waco Tanks is so amazing that most people come here to repeat those classic lines. And I've been here enough that I've done a lot of them that I can, and the ones that I haven't, I need to put in a lot more work than I'm ready to right now. So, you know, I've chosen this other path. And there's tons of climbs out there, and, you know, people either aren't going looking for them, or, you know, when they do go on tour, they're going to the, you know, the zone, the maze, or wherever. So yeah, they can look around and see what's around there, but they're not going and like getting out to like the random stuff. And
Gotcha.
so yeah, there's tons. I mean, especially if you want to hike around, and you know, maybe there's not like 30 problems in the zone, but, you know, you'll find a couple. And yeah, it's like endless. I mean, I haven't even seen everything, you know. It's like I've seen like a corner of West, really.
Yep. And in your conversation with John on Chalk Talk, you mentioned that you'll come across lines and see them, and it's a feature you've looked at before and just never recognized it as a rock climb. You know, how do you think that happens? What do you think enables you to see those things?
A lot of times it seems like some of those things just appear out of the blue.
Yeah.
And it's like, how has that been there forever? Sometimes it's light. Like, sometimes we'll be walking and, you know, the light will be cutting into a cave, a certain angle, and it'll like present that, oh, there's a huge roof in there. Stuff like that all the time. Or just a different angle you're looking at it, perspective. I was out yesterday over by Star Power, and I looked up into the zone that I had been to, and I remember being up in there and looking around. There really wasn't much, but I looked up again and I saw that there on the backside of this one boulder that I probably didn't get to, there's a really nice looking streaked wall. I'm like, oh man, I got to hike back up there now. Like, because that looks, from down here, it looks awesome.
And it feels like it could be endless here.
Yeah.
Like, you just everywhere you go, you can look around and see another feature you want to go check out. You know?
Yeah. And also, like, the people who've explored Waco in the past, you know, like in the 90s or whatever, like the level of climbing was, you know, at a certain point. So now people are stronger, and, you know, we can do more. And so instantly there's more available, and it's all that same good Waco rock.
Yeah, and the climbing is different too. I was talking to John Sherman the other day, and he said something really interesting that I had never considered, that he went and looked at the Rhino the other day, which is a compression problem, right near Diaphanous Sea, right in that little cavern. And he said back when he was exploring around and looking for problems, he never would have recognized that as a rock climb because
looking for holds, not features,
because compression just wasn't a thing. It wasn't feature climbing wasn't really a thing. And I wonder sometimes if the what we do indoors with these big features doesn't transfer over to the way we see rock outside. And I think that while we don't do a ton of the parkour style World Cup sort of climbing outside, there is some, but not a ton of it. I do think it's interesting that we've gone more in this big features, look like interesting features to climb now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and a lot of times, you walk up and there are no holds. It's like,
yeah, totally.
You're just squeezing your way through it. So yeah, that totally makes sense with what John's saying. But yeah, the whole like the run and jump thing.
Yeah.
What's going on now? I mean, every comp has a running jump now. It's like a little too much.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely popular.
I mean, that stuff exists. It's just really hard to find, and it's really hard to like find a scenario that exists in reality. A lot of times you can be like, okay, let's do this because it's fun. It's kind of an eliminate type thing. But like to actually find like a swooping ramp that you can run up that ends in a Waco or something like that, like those things are really hard to find. And I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sure the more people are climbing like that, we will find stuff.
Yep. And I just saw Matt Wilder's video the other day of his, Waco warp wall that was pretty much exactly that. It looked like a American Ninja Warrior warp wall to a jug. Looks super interesting. But I have to bring up the trampoline now. So talk to me about that. How did that come about?
Well, that came about, like, I've known about the problem for a while, and it did kind of come about for like a video concept. I was like, I would love to shoot that, and to make it fun, I was thinking before, I was like, oh yeah, go into some ghetto El Paso thrift shop, and you like walk out with this trampoline, because it could be done many ways. Like you could have your friends toss you up there, or you could stack pads,
a bunch of pads.
You could find something to get you up there. But that was just more, okay, let's have fun with it. And it's kind of super random. And I told Nathaniel about the idea. He was like, oh yeah, definitely, let's do that. And I was like, okay, like easy, we'll go do that.
Was it at all poking fun at the
no,
American Ninja Warrior
not at
stuff?
Not at all. And I would love to poke fun at that if I could, but no, it wasn't. It was just a means, it was, how can we get there? This is how we can get there. It's kind of funny. Maybe if I was poking fun at that, I would have ran in from the other room and had a bandana on or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was more of just necessity. And
yeah, I think it's awesome because it speaks to that we all draw our own personal line where our limits are. You hear people all the time like, oh, you can't stack 2 pads to start this boulder problem. You have to do it off 1 pad, or the sit start is easier and then it doesn't count. So there's all these odd rules that I just shake my head at, and I'm like, I'll just do it however I want to do it. And
I mean, that's what matters.
And that's that, But so when I saw the trampoline, I was like, this is amazing, because some people are going to be like, oh, that can't count as a rock climb. That's not real if you use the trampoline.
Yeah.
But then they would gladly just stack pads and grab the hole.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it speaks to that, and I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, and it was fun. People remember that, and it's cool.
Does any of what you do outside carry over into your gym designs, like the features you see outside?
For sure, yeah. I mean, yes, just in the fact that I'm, always looking for interesting shapes outside, but at the same time, I really look at a lot of like architectural stuff and just like patterns or, you know, like these spirals and stuff like that. And I really like that kind of flowing design. A lot of gym designs are more purposeful where they're like, okay, we want to have this angle, this angle, this angle.
Right.
And then what goes on between those angles, we really don't care.
Right. Just big
It's
filler
to
walls.
to fill in there. But yeah, I'm trying to do something that, you know, more flows throughout the whole design and makes sense and is also useful, practical. You know, you can put more than like one hold on a panel or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Not all these little panels that constantly change angles.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm having tons of fun with it. Like I love any kind of design and
Did you have a background in that?
in actual like design,
In any sort of design,
in 3D
anything
design like that. No, but you know, I went to college for all the arts like photography, sculpture, painting, everything like that. So I have a base. But as far as technical, you know, computer programs and stuff like that, I kind of just taught myself. And it was definitely a slow process because there aren't a lot of tutorials for abstract design. It's
Right.
more, oh, here's how to do a SketchUp coffee table or how to build a room that's square. You know? So that was hard. And I think between the first gym, which is Golden Earth Treks, and the second one, Crystal City, like I went from, you know, doing probably like 75% of it and then having to get help from the Walltopia designers to the Crystal City. It was like 99.9% all my design. I just handed it to them and it was done. And it was just a matter of understanding the program. You know? And
how do you approach that? Do you kind of learn its technical aspects? Do you go through the coffee table tutorials first?
To some extent, and learn how to tweak them. And a lot of times, you know, with a lot of programs, you know, there's more than one way to get to a certain situation. You know, it's what is the easiest. Same with video editing or whatever. I did have some help from Jason Thomas, who's the Eldo designer, and he kind of helped me through, you know, learning certain techniques. And you know, I'd meet with him and he's like, well what do you want to do? Like, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, I'm not trying to do anything. I want to understand everything so I can do what I want to do, you know. And I think with computer programs and stuff like that, it just, you know, there's a lot of hidden things that you can learn. So yeah, once I was able to learn how to manipulate it, then now you can do anything you want, basically.
Right. And I think climbing's a lot like that. And I kind of see that in your climbing too, because, you know, what you become you know, to use the word loosely, but you master the technical side of rock climbing and you test yourself by repeating, you know, recognized climbs that are already established. And once you've mastered that and understand it and can start to, it makes it easier to think outside the box at that point.
Definitely.
You know? And I think that's true with all the arts, you know, and I definitely view climbing as one of the arts.
True,
you know?
true. And strength is, you know, your palate or, you know, what you can do. And my thing is always, you know, like, oh, they're like, oh, this guy's so strong or so-and-so's so strong. I'm like, everyone's strong. What can you do with your strength?
Yeah, totally.
You know, everyone is strong. Like, it's okay. What are you doing with it? You know, you're not doing anything that's benefiting climbing as a whole. You're just going out and doing some random stuff. It's like, okay, I've seen that for years.
Yeah,
it's not impressive. But, you know, the guy that's going out there and using his strength to show us something new, that's what's cool to me.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be as far outside of the box as you approach things. But I think that, you know, there are all sorts of ways to be a little different or to tell a story. I think storytelling is really, really important. And without storytelling, it just becomes, you know, almost a pointless activity.
Yeah, just like watch me, look at what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I hear people all the time like climbing is pointless. We're not helping the world. We're not changing the world, you know. I'm like, well, we kind of are. If we're telling our story and other people are relating to it, then, you know, little bits at a time, we are making a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important.
Giving someone, you know, something that they're like, oh, I didn't even realize that people do that, or that's possible, or
Right.
you know, like
Right, or someone's been looking for an outlet for themselves, and they see your video, and they're like, "Oh, this, this
I wanna
guy's
do
doing it
this."
different, and I want to do something different too."
Yeah, and it's peaceful. We're not hurting anyone. We're, I think expanding our own minds
Other than
and
ourselves,
our bodies.
we're hurting ourselves. But
Yeah, I know a lot of people are like, why you do that to yourself? Like, because I don't want to sit on the couch and just become a potato. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just said strength is part of your palette, and that's something I want to talk to you about for sure. Is that, like I mentioned earlier, you said in your podcast with John that becoming a better climber opens up more doors. How do you approach becoming a better climber?
By climbing more, I think. I'm not really one to train at all. Like, I have trained in the past. I've definitely like put my time in training, and certain times I've trained more, like when I had my knee surgeries, like I did a lot of finger training and stuff like that. But nowadays it's like I'm fueled by my passion, and my passion is the line and the beauty of the line. And so I find something that is so beautiful that I want to do anything I can do, including mutate my body to get up the rock.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. The end goal is, okay, I see this, I know I can do it. It has to be done. Like, what can I do to get there? And I haven't necessarily trained for specific problems. Yeah, maybe I need more endurance or whatever like that. But I find that, just going to the problem repeatedly and, getting a workout on the problem, or, I'm like, I'm falling at the last move. I need to do the last part like 7 times today, and then take a rest day, go do some other stuff, and come back. So I think, I'm fueled more by that nowadays than being like, okay, I want to climb hard, I want to flash V10s, I want to do this. I don't think about that as much.
Sure.
As I'm more goal oriented. As I see this line, I fell in love with it, and now I need to do it. Yeah.
When you have that goal, do you change things in the rest of your life to reach that goal? Like, are you resting more than you normally would? Or?
I mean, sure. Yeah, you'll restructure your climbing around it. Yeah. But not in the way that, I need to be on a diet to send this. Or
right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that extreme, for sure.
But no, definitely.
I like donuts way too much to ever do that.
Yeah, or find that, you're working something, and a lot of times, you can work something too much, and you can start to digress, and, having a rest day where you just go out and do a bunch of fun moderates, I think, just loosens up your body. And yeah, I mean, climbing in general, it's about listening to your body. And even over, so many years, you can't really learn what is the final answer all the time, because one, your body's always changing. But yeah, just listening to your body and understanding, what you need. And that could be the point where, I'm going to send, or I'm going to injure myself.
Yeah. When you climb on your home wall in here, are you trying to, do you have home wall projects? Are you trying harder things? What's your process look like in here?
It's mostly a creative process, like most of my climbing, but because the whole wall is covered in holds, and there's a lot of options. We just go in there and we make up something new every single time. And sure, I have some like, I've tried this before, like, let's try and do it, kind of projects, but I don't have any projects where I'm like, this is my home wall project. They kind of just come in and come out, and a lot of times I forget about them. And,
Sure.
And that's great, because, it's this canvas. You walk in there, you're like, what can we do today? Some days you're not so creative and it's not as fun, and other days you just have a blast in there, and that's interesting too. And it's, hard to be psyched every single day. It's hard to be creative every single day.
Yeah.
So
impossible.
Yeah. So when you do have those days, you're like, oh wow, I'm making up great problems today. This is like super fun. And
what do you do on those days when you don't feel creative? Do you just cut it off? What's your day look like?
No, I mean, sometimes, yeah, for sure. Yesterday we went climbing and we went on West and went to like the Devil's Butthole and Star Power, and we were just feeling kind of tired and hot. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, I don't care. Like, you know, we don't have to push it, you know, like, and I'm not really in a project mindset right now. After I just was gone for a week in Japan, I kind of feel like I stepped out of the realm, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, I'm back. I got to get recycled again. But yeah, I think, you know, don't be too hard on yourself. If you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. And another day you will feel it.
Yeah. I have a question. You seem like such a laid back guy all the time, you know, and there's definitely an intensity to you that I think a lot of really creative people bring. And in your videos, when you're climbing, the shots of you climbing, there's so much intensity. Is that, like, do you bring that to your projects? Is that more for the video? What's that? I mean, it's almost this, like, it's not anger. I won't call it anger, but it's an intensity.
Yeah, it's directed anger, you know?
Sure. Okay.
A lot of times I'll climb with people, certain friends, I won't mention any names, and, you know, they fall off their project and they get mad on the ground.
Right.
You know, they hit the ground and they're screaming, and I'm like, why didn't you just do that up there?
Right.
When you were still on the wall, you know, project that into the climbing.
Use all that energy for the climb.
I think that's what I like to do. I like to, you know when to turn it on, know when to relax, and know when to get aggressive. And for me, I have to try hard to succeed. You know, I'm not like the best climber in the world. Like, things are hard, and if I don't try my hardest, I'm not going to do it. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that just knowing when to turn it on, and, you know, the end goal for me is to succeed, and I have to get into that mindset sometimes to succeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to, you know, be pretty low key and pretty calm. Like, I'm a pretty, you know, unaffected guy. Like, I don't let things stress me out. If something is bad, like, okay, that's what it is. But yeah, at a certain point, like in the wobbler in the video, like it was hot. I've been working this way too long, and you get pushed to a certain point.
Yeah, I found it really interesting that you step on in these videos and it's like this pure fierceness just, you know, explodes.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see. And I hear it, you know, Annalisa tells me all the time, and everybody I know brings it up at some point, that I'm a pretty quiet, laid back, you know, same as you, pretty unaffected by things. But then once I have a microphone in my hand, I can flip the switch and turn it on and do whatever the hell I want to do at that point. Yeah. You know, and there's a lot more intensity and vibrance when I have a microphone in my hand. So I thought it was interesting to see that happen on the climb. And I like that you take that emotion that a lot of people let out on the ground afterward and put it up on the climb.
And a lot of times, like, it's hard to get to that point that you allow yourself to try that hard. Yeah. And a lot of times I feel that, like, it's strange because, you know, you're strongest when you first arrive and you're ready to send, but I'll have to fail so much to push me to that mental point where I'm like, okay, it's done. Like, I got to just, you know, suck it up and do it. And the fact is, I'm way too tired to do it.
Sure.
And I should have, you know, turned it on like an hour ago, but I had to get pushed to that point of failure, and to that point of like, okay, you're not going to do this now. Now I have to turn it on, you know, I have no other option. And, you know, that's the key. It'd be cool to tap into that early on, but sometimes I don't hit that point until the very end of the day, the last try. I'm so exhausted, and that's it. You know, it turns you into something else. It's kind of interesting.
Have you tried to figure out how to turn it on earlier?
Yeah, like bite a piece of wood or something while I'm climbing. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. And I've even had moments, you know, I love that point in the problem where you lose it. Everything is gone.
You hit
you're
that
just
zone.
in the zone. I love that. Like,
Yeah.
that's the perfect climbing mentality, because you're not thinking anymore. You're just reacting. And sometimes you can't get there. Like, I've been sending my projects before and been so much in my head that it was just driving me crazy. You know, I was like sticking the next move and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to do this. I'm like, oh no, like, is this really happening?
Right.
I'm like, what if my foot slips? Like, too much in your head. And it's not until, you know, your foot slips or something and you have to try extra hard that, you know, you yell and that all that just releases
that
and
triggers that state.
And then, you're back into that, like, just going for it mindset. And yeah, I mean, that's, I guess, the whole goal is to be able to flip that switch and go for it, you know.
At
command.
We were just talking last night, and I had realized years ago that I do have a trigger to be able to flip that switch to turn on that other person when I have a microphone in my hand. And for me, and this obviously most likely wouldn't work for climbing, but for me, if I put on a hat I would never wear or an outfit I wouldn't normally wear, I can become that other person really quickly, you know, and I said it last night, and Annalisa was like, I've noticed that you wear hats, you know, you wear ball caps at every big event. And I'm like, yeah, I never wear them otherwise, especially like flat billed hats, you know, it's not me. But if I put that on while I have a microphone in my hand, I can be someone else, you know. So I wonder how much putting the video camera on you and knowing that you're going to create something else out of it can allow you to turn that switch on.
Yeah,
because I see it in a lot of your videos.
Or having people around, because, you know, sometimes you're climbing by yourself and it's harder to turn it on because there's not people being like, oh, come on.
Yep.
And yeah, it's definitely connected, because here's one thing: every time I'm trying my project, and it's super strange, it's like I'm connected with the video, is that, you know, I walk over there and I push record on the camera.
Yep.
As soon as I push that button, I know I can't back away.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like when I'm at the base of the climb and I pull on the climb, it starts. As soon as I press that button, I'm like, shit, I just, you know, engage the situation. Like, I have to get on and do it now. I can't back out. Like, it's super weird. I start to get nervous. I'm like, push record. And I walk over there. I'm like, I'm going to be on the wall in like 15 seconds. And I just have to do it, you know? Yeah, it's strange.
And that might be your telephone booth.
Yeah,
you know? That
a
might
little
be
bit.
Superman changes into.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't like it. I'm always like, because I'm getting nervous before the fact that it's even starting. Because I know that's the real start. You know, like, you can't turn back now.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, and I try not to have any, you know, like, too much projection of success or anything like that.
And here we are talking about it, so now it's going to taint the whole thing.
No, well, some of my friends are like, oh, how do you feel today? You think you're going to send, you know? You psyched? I'm like, well, I guess I'll know when I'm standing on top, you know? Like, I don't ever go and be like, yeah. I'm like, you know, I don't want to get too hyped up and like, just remain calm and like,
those expectations can be a killer. You know, there are definitely times when I've been like, I'm going to send.
You know, you know, you're going to.
It's going to happen today, but more often than not, it's more about, okay, I just need to, you know, this might be possible. I need to try really hard to make it possible, and then it happens. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
What's next? Where are you taking the creative force that is Jason Kehl from here?
Definitely tons of Waco projects that it's just a matter of time and weather and skin.
Yeah. And we'll get the videos eventually because you're on your new social media blackout times.
Yeah. Right? I'm trying to share more with the world this year. I have a love-hate relationship for sure.
Yeah. I think it's good to have.
Yeah. Too much is just too much. But I'm doing tons of new holds. Like, I have lists of things that I need to do for So Ill. Some new volumes.
Do you shape for other people as well, or is it mostly So Ill, Crypto
I'm not
Child?
currently, just because I have so much to do that I would like to at some point. But I just have like a list of things
Yeah.
that I need to get on.
And you guys seem like a good marriage. Anyway.
Yeah. They kind of let me do what I want. They trust that, I have a good idea. And I mean, we bounce stuff off each other for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. And more gym design stuff. Just finished up another Earth Tracks that's in Columbia, Maryland, which was the original.
Yep.
They're redoing it, the whole thing. And I'm doing a gym in Truckee, California.
Cool.
Which is going to be awesome. It's high altitude fitness. They have a gym in Tahoe, Incline Village right now.
Nice.
That's like any day now. But yeah, try to do more gym stuff. Yeah.
I'm glad that you've taken all these creative things, that you're interested in and rolled them into this lifestyle career that you've got.
I mean, I'm glad that I can be a climber in all these different aspects of climbing, because when I became a climber, it was like all I want to do is climb. I want to be like the epitome of what a climber is, and
back then there wasn't that these obvious paths to making a living that way.
For sure. And it's not like you're letting yourself down, but to get a real job or a climbing unrelated job, I wouldn't be as psyched for sure, and it's cool that there are all these ways to still be a climber and do other things.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you're out there doing it, and keeps me stoked to see somebody rolling it all into one like that.
Yeah.
So,
thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for having me over, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Big thanks to Jason for having me over to his house and sitting down, taking time out. He's obviously a busy guy. I mean, he's shaping holds, designing gyms, constantly putting up first ascents, and I don't know how he fits it all in, frankly. And if you haven't seen his most recent Waco video that I believe was put out by Friction Labs, I've got it posted up on the page on our site for this podcast, so you should definitely go check that out. Still yielding, that's his hashtag, and he just keeps finding new things in Waco, a place that boulders have been calling climbed out for a long, long time. So the guy's got more creative energy than he knows what to do with, and he puts it to really, really good use. And you should go to cryptochild.com and learn more about Jason. Like I said, if you're not hip to his videos, go check those out. Definitely puts a lot of his creative energy into those, and I, for one, really, really appreciate that he does that, and that he's, throughout all these years, he's kept true to himself, and he's kept his integrity, and he's been able to build this pretty cool, pretty important, I think, brand in this world of climbing. So again, big thanks to Jason, cryptochild.com. Go check him out. You guys, don't forget to go leave a review. We need 12 more, and if I get those 12, I've got a whole bunch of really, really badass women on the podcast coming up. And I'll just drop those like crazy because I've got a bunch of them, and I really want to share these things with you guys. So 12 more reviews. Go do it. I told you guys we got some events coming up. So just a couple of weeks, Thursday, July 13th, I will be here at the International Climbers Festival at the Lander Bake Shop from 3 to 6 p.m. And I'll be hosting a conversation with Steve Bechtel, Neely Quinn, Eric Hurst, and Arno Ilgner. So you guys should, if you're in the area, please come over. I would love to see you. Come say hi. And we'll be taking questions, of course. We're going to be all on a panel, so come and see us, talking all about training. Also, Nate and I will be in Milwaukee at Adventure Rock for the Midwest Training for Climbing Conference, the first annual. And you guys should go to the website and sign up right now so you can get $100 off the early bird special until July 15th, I believe. So go sign up there, midwesttcc.com. And Nate and I are going to be releasing our new body tension drills. We've been talking about rooting. That's where you're going to learn it first. So please come out and work with us. We'll be doing a bunch of workshops. And if you want to support the podcast, you want more episodes, the We Scream Like Eagles podcast is now live. You can find out more at patreon.com/Power Company Podcast. Hope to see you guys over there. I hope to see you at the Facebooks. I hope to see you at the Instagrams and the Pinterests. I'm not going to see you at the Twitters because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
This time,